Hello, family. How are you today? Family, I am doing great. Truly blessed, feeling highly favored today, and I am sincerely hoping the same for you and yours. Family, I was in a conversation with a friend, and in this conversation, my friend described the individual that she was speaking about as being holier than thou. And so I am being prompted in my spirit to dive a little deeper on gaining knowledge relating to people who, let me simplify it, think that they are better than others. And I truly believe that that is something stemming from that spirit of religion, religious mindset that some take on, thinking that they are better than others, or a person who they depict as a sinner. And so I Google the meaning of it, and Google never ceased to amaze me. It always come up with a definition for basically whatever you are looking for. And it describes holier than thou is a disapproving term used to describe someone who behaves as if they are morally superior, more virtuous, or more religious than others. It characterizes an attitude of self righteousness. Let me repeat that. It characterizes an attitude of self righteousness. In other words, it's yourself that is thinking that you are so righteous, often accompanied by a judgmental or condescending tone toward those who do not share the same standards. So, one thing that caught my attention and concerned me about that sentence, holier than thou, um, I first looked in the mirror, family, at myself. You know, don't want to ever give the impression that I am looking down on others, or, think that I am more than someone else due to what I am doing with making the content on YouTube. I don't want to give you that impression. And I believe that I always relate to you that I will always be transparent, that I will never sit before you pretending that I have been this way all my life. Not the case. Matter of fact, family, I believe that preachers, whoever is in the pulpit, deacons, choir members, the congregation, we all, family, have a past. And where I'm at in my thinking at this time in my life, I believe that everything that we experienced and we went through in our lives made us who we are today. And speaking for myself, I wouldn't change a thing. All the heartbreak, all the mistakes, all the falling down and having to get back up, just everything. I wouldn't change a thing. because I kind of like who I am today. But family, have you ever ran across an individual in a church setting, or just anywhere, who kind of have that snide little, look down if you mispronounce a word, or if you don't know the scripture, or if maybe they have more knowledge on a topic than you do. And those kind of people used to really get up under my skin, but now, family, the level that I'm on, I discern the spirit by the spirit, and I treat them accordingly. No disrespect, no letting it get me into a attitude toward them or anything. It just is what it is, family. But the thing that I want to point out to you today is because I have heard or had certain people come to me and conversate with me regarding how they are being treated by an individual who think that they are more than them. And the first thing that I do, family, is put emphasis on: you never let anyone make you feel less than who you are. I don't care who it is. And a matter of fact, if an individual is attempting to do that to someone, then to me, they're not a good individual, or they are blindly without consciousness. And I kind of give leeway to a lot of people that they just don't know, but a lot of them do. That they are intentionally trying to puff themselves up and make themselves seem more than somebody else, then that's not a good individual. Family, you have to be flexible in life to interact with people on different levels. Sometimes, family, you have to come down to a person's level of understanding in order to get them to understand where you're coming from, what you are interacting and conversating with them about. And scripture tells us that it ain't about the big words and being all articulate and puffed up, and scripture tells us, family, that we're supposed to bring it down to layman's term, that even a child would understand what you are trying to relate to them. And then just because you might have more knowledge than someone else, don't make you more than them, because it's guaranteed that there's somebody else out there who know more than you do. you know and I want to make it clear that I am the type of person, family, who is always open to being taught and to learning more. Matter of fact, I love running across an individual who can enlighten me and raise my understanding of something that I'm not really fully grasping. And so, uh, another thing about a person who think that they are holier than thou, they have the perception of themselves as being better, that they don't curse, they don't drink, they don't smoke, they probably wear long dresses. Some people think not wearing makeup, jewelry, earrings make them holy. But family, that's not the case. That's not what make you holy. Holy, family, comes from within. And to simplify it and bring it down to the simplest definition is integrity. Integrity. That's what God gave me as a guide throughout my life. And simply, integrity is doing the right thing, whether in front of somebody or behind closed doors by yourself. Doing what you perceive is the right thing in all circumstances. And let me give you an example. When I was working in the barbershop, sometime a customer would get up and pay forth for the next customer, you know? And I always have looked at everything as a test, that God is everywhere, seeing everything I do within me. He's in my heart, He's in my thoughts, He's everywhere. And so I could have been Dick Dastardly, if y'all remember that cartoon character. He used to have the cape and he doing little devious uh, Dick Dastardly things, deceiving. And I could have kept the money that customer had gave me for the next customer and then charge the customer anyway. But family, no. I would always tell that customer that this one paid for your haircut, so it's paid for. And guess what, family? That customer would always give me as a tip the amount of the haircut or just make me take it anyway. I always come out on top when I implement and stand on integrity, doing the right thing. And so, family, it's not about always trying to be right, always trying to be perfect, always trying to put on air of I am all this and I am all that and I read the Bible daily and I know this scripture by heart and family, that's not what I perceive is making you better. Matter of fact, it just dropped into my spirit to remind you of your love walk. Family, to simplify the whole Bible and everything the content is trying to relate to us, it comes back to love. God is love. Source is love. Higher power, however you look at it, however you want to speak it, I truly believe it comes back to love, family. And it blows my mind when I look back on my life because I was introduced to love before I even knew a Bible and knew that it states that God is love. And the way I was introduced to love, family, is with my mother's and my father's family. They truly displayed love one for the other. I remember, family, my mama getting up in the wee hours of the morning and she would throw us all into the car and she would head to East Texas to her father, missing him and just wake up and want to see him, and would when we get there, she was set at her dad's feet. And I remember the expression on her face looking up at her father. It was such a reverence and a love for her father. And my dad with his mother, it was the same way. I saw genuine love between the relatives. They love their uncles, they love their aunts, they love their cousins. They were so close and so tight until today, family. It grieves me somewhat to see the breakdown of family and that closeness, that bond, that love that they displayed back then. It seemed to me, family, that the more we achieve and gain in monetary and materialism, that it separates us to a certain extent. Then I have to relate to scripture because it warned that in these last days, love was going to be hard to find. But, family, I'm still a believer and I'm standing on my faith and I'm putting it in the ethers and on these YouTube streets that what makes you holy, what makes you good, what makes you like God is your love walk, perfecting your love. And let me put this in: love is not a pushover, love is not someone who just accept being treated and done any kind of way. No, no. God won't allow you just to do anything and just to act up and just be foolish and deceitful and lying. And no, no. You have standards and you have a structure. It's certain ways you go about it. And just because you are loving someone don't mean that you allow them to just treat you any kind of way, family. That's not how I see it. And then what kind of God would want that for his child, for his children, for his people? So I'm not gonna put emphasis. We have scripture who that tells us what love is. I'll let you define that for yourself. But that should be the priority of all, is to perfect our love walk. So, family, if you want to be holy, if you want to be all that, then learn how to love God, the creator, source, higher power first, then love yourself, family. Truly define what loving yourself means to you, and then your neighbor and others. Because you can't give what you don't have. If you're not knowing how to love yourself, then you can't give that to anybody. And just a tip for those who are in relationships, who are always being rejected by somebody, it might be that you are not displaying a genuine love for yourself, and therefore they don't give the love in return to you. It starts with loving yourself. So, family, I hope that something I've said today related with you and you can implement it in your life, or you can have knowledge when you run across an individual such as holier than thou. Family, I love you. Just a little nugget I wanted to drop with you today. Family, you know what? The older I get, I just love all kind of weather. It's humid, but it's cloudy and it's a breeze, and it make me think about when I was a child. and outdoors playing. I love these kind of days, and it's a good day. Enjoy, love yourself, love others, regardless, and put God first. Family, remember, if I've said anything that you like, please hit the like button. If you believe that you want to become a subscriber, hit the subscribe button, family. I would love to have you as part of the family. On a serious tip, one thing that I desire is to find my tribe, so to speak, to find my family. And I believe that that is the reason why God prompted me to go into these YouTube streets that y'all are out there. And so I'm standing on my faith, believing that one day we all will be together as a big happy family. And I am so looking forward to it. I love you. Have a blessed day. And I will see you again soon. Bye bye.